Hello, friends. Welcome to today's episode of Real Women, Real Talk with me, your host, Sara Renshaw. And please allow me to introduce to you today's guest, Lucia. How do you say your last name? Marano, right? Marano?
There's history behind that last name. Maybe I'll tell you about it.
Okay, here we go, you see. Lucia is coming to us today from Los Angeles, where she resides with her kitty, Sonny Boy.
And a stray cat that I've been feeding for 3 years called Kitty Kitty.
Of course. I'm not
Who I
surprised.
haven't pet for 3 years because he just comes in and eats and sleeps on the couch, but he's traumatized. So I just feed him.
He feels comfortable with you. So, and I know, I know you. So Lucia and I met in our sustainability course at UCLA. And we initially bonded because I was going through my divorce. And at that time, she was also considering divorce with her then husband. At the time, I was a lost soul. I was neither religious nor had any spiritual practices in my life. And Lucia was light years ahead of me in that department. She invited me to a Temazcal ceremony with her Native American friends and crew. And I was desperate to try anything, so I trusted her. I wanted to feel better and overcome those heavy emotions of divorce, to process what I was going through. And so I was open. And so I met her in the mountains of Ojai, California. And that experience changed my life. You'll never forget your first Temazcal ceremony. It's freaking intense. And I still partake now in the Mayan form of them, and it's my form of church. But Lucia took it to the next level. She asked me a few months later to join her or to support her on her vision quest. And a vision quest, basically, she went into the mountains for 3 days alone, without food and water, slept underneath the elements of wind and rain and storm. And the idea is to receive messages from the spirit world. I was there for her when she came down the mountain. And I thought, this woman is a badass. And I knew then that I needed her energy in my life. So she does everything with all her heart, mind, body, spirit. And I've always admired her strength. And so I'm super happy to have her here join us and share her story with us, because I know she will also inspire you. So without further ado, please help me to welcome Lucia.
Well, hello. That was hello. That's an amazing introduction. Well, first, let me say thank you for having me and inviting me. And it has to be said how much of a badass you are, and how much inspiration you give me in all that you continue to pioneer. You really do. Absolutely. Sarah's no joke. She has vision, and she will go and execute that vision. She will go on that journey. And because you're a Capricorn and I'm into astrology, I imagine that mountain goat that goes up that steep mountain, that's Sara Renshaw. She will,
even if I'm going up the wrong damn mountain, I'll
you have conviction and you have vision, and it's really wonderful to see you. And even when we don't talk, we have radio silence for a bit. I'll talk to you. It feels like we just got off the phone yesterday. That's the kind of friendship we have, and we had a little bump in the road at one time during the process of my divorce. But when emotions run high, you know, it can be tough, but we still kept that bond. And so it speaks to your strength and your integrity of really looking to womanhood and embracing that and helping your sisters. And that's what I feel like you are to me. And I think you're brilliant. I think you're creative. And I think you're a pioneer. And I'm proud to call you my friend.
Oh, I love you. We have to come together. We have to hold space for each other, because if anyone knows what we're going through, it's other women.
That's right. And when you win, I win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with getting to know you a little bit? What is your background, your family dynamics? What's your story? How did you get to Los Angeles? Share.
Well, yeah, sure. I was born to immigrant Italian parents, and they were born and raised in southern Italy in a place called Calabria, which if you look at the boot that is Italy, I'm by the close to the toes of the boot, so south. And my mom and dad were born and raised and married and had my brother and my sister and my brother in that order in Italy, and came to this country. I was the only American born. And I grew up in the Bronx, New York, and then moved to the suburbs of New York and found myself back in the city of New York. And I graduated from university with the idea of pursuing creative writing. I actually studied journalism, so that's not creative writing, but I found myself wanting to get into show business. So I started working in production, and then realized that wasn't me. I wanted to be in front of the camera or on stage. So after I hitchhiked around Australia for 3 months, I had an epiphany. That was a whole other experience. But I hitchhiked with a friend of mine for 3 months. She was looking for a place to live in Australia. She's from Australia, and I had met her the first time. That was my second time to Australia, and this was in my early 20s. This is after university, after I went to Fordham University in the Bronx. I met this guy from Australia, and he was traveling around the world, which Australians do when they graduate or they have some life change. And I thought he was like Mel Gibson, you know, persona. We just had these beautiful eyes. We had this sort of correspondence, romantic correspondence. At the time, this was the 90s, so we actually wrote letters. So there was no
Wow.
email. We wrote letters to one another. And I wrote him a letter and said, "What are you doing for breakfast on May 21st? I'll be in Sydney." I show up, and 3 days later, it tells me on his 30th birthday party, because I was like 21, he was 30. On his 30th birthday party, he met a woman that he thinks he's in love with. And I had just gotten to Sydney from New York after corresponding with him for all the whole year. And yeah, I was told, sorry, I met a blonde. I don't know.
Oh my God. What a
I
leg
know.
sweep.
Yeah. So anyway, I just try to make the best of it, and I made friends. And in that friendship, I met this woman who I became very close with. And I think the following year, I returned to Australia, and that's when I hitchhiked around Australia with her, backpacked. And it was during that journey that I was like, I don't want to be 50 years old and say, what if? And what if I didn't pursue my passion? So I did. I said, I'm gonna go and pursue my passion. And I've had success. My biggest success was auditioning for and getting the role of Lady Macbeth. and I played Lady Macbeth on a very small stage off Broadway. And we interpreted the story of Macbeth as corporate America. So it was Lady Macbeth.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I came out to LA because I wanted to do more film and television. And I pursued that. And so I did more theater. I did television. I was on a soap opera for some soap operas, two soap operas, independent films. And I was writing one-woman shows and performing one-woman shows of women, because I'm a woman, that
Full circle.
that I admired. One of my proud, I think, I love the work that I really delved into. And of course, before Frida Kahlo became sort of more mainstream, I was following her in my early 20s, and I brought to life one of her self-portraits. So that was one of my one-woman shows. Her contemporary was a woman named Tina Medotti. She was a photographer, also part of that whole crew in 1920s Mexico. So I did a one-woman show about her. I loved Wonder Woman. So I did a one-woman piece about Wonder Woman before that became a movie, and I called it Wonder Woman in Therapy. And how hard it is to be such a superwoman, you know, and have
Yeah.
that sense of like being strong all the time. And, you know, I said, you know, I want Wonder Woman to share her vulnerability, but I did it in a comedy piece. So I called it Wonder Woman in Therapy. So anyway,
Well, I saw the pictures and they were gorgeous. So
thanks.
made
Yes.
a good superwoman.
Oh, well, you know, actually, I'll never forget that costume. I went to Hollywood Boulevard in Hollywood, and there was a time that there was mostly strip clubs. And so I went with a picture of Linda Carter. She was the Wonder Woman on television on ABC, Channel 7, I don't forget. And I took that picture and I went into a shop that was, you know, had clothes for strippers. But there was one store that had a seamstress. She was working on the costumes for the strippers.
Yeah.
I went to this shop and I said, look, this is the outfit I want. I don't want it to be a G-string. I want it to be like PG-13. This is the image. And I had my Wonder Woman costume made at a shop that
By a stripper seamstress.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Power to you. And my gold bracelets were gold lame. It was awesome. So anyway, so I had that costume made and I performed it on stage live at an improv place that doesn't exist anymore in LA, down on Fairfax, called Bang Improv. And I was working on other materials that I wanted to write about women that I loved. And now that we're talking, I mean, just recently, Emma Goldman was a woman that I wanted to write about. She was a revolutionary woman. She was considered an anarchist in the 1920s because she spoke up about child labor. She spoke up about conditions that prisoners were living in. She spoke up about women's health. She was in jail a lot of times.
Wow.
Yeah. And one of the things, many things I loved about Emma Goldman, but one of the things she would say is when she would get thrown into prison or jail, she would say, oh, I have time to relax now and read and write. So she turned things around. Yeah, you want to throw me in prison? It's okay. I'm going to relax. I'm going to write my book. I'm going to like keep it going.
I'm planning my next anarchy move. I'm planning my next
That's right.
deal.
Right. So anyway, that was a woman that I wanted to do a one-woman piece on, but I ended up getting married, and that was a challenge because I was naive too, and we all can be, but I didn't really fully understand what it was to be intimate with someone who was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. No judgment here, no labels, but it was something I wasn't fully prepared for. No one is, but he self-medicated with alcohol. So I was on a bit of a roller coaster ride, and I stopped performing, I stopped writing, because I come from a very traditional Italian family. My parents are still married. You stay married. And I was going to stay committed. So I said, you know what?
So you put him first, you put your
Yes.
dreams aside and put
Right.
him first and taking care of him and being the good Italian wife.
That's right. That's right. Despite the fact that, you know, in his mind, I was, you know, nothing but selfish, but you know, it,
Hindsight.
yeah. So, and that marriage finally dissolved. And by that point, I was exhausted mentally, physically.
How long were you guys married?
It was we got married 2007. We officially divorced in 2015. And something so crazy happened. Well, I'll never forget, I was in Malibu because my best friend's mom had a beautiful house in the colony, and there was a party going on down the street, and I had gotten my divorce papers, like officially. The judge signed it off that day. I got it. I took the envelope. I was running out the door. I took the envelope and put it in my bag and went to Malibu, and I opened it up and I was like, oh, that's my divorce papers. It's, oh, here I am, I'm celebrating. Well, the next day, the place that we got married in Malibu burned down. That was the fires. That was the most recent fires. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We got married up in the Semler Wines, and we got married up there, and yeah, it burned.
Well, I guess that was the sign, you know, it was like, okay, it's all over now. And so at that point, then it was, well, I'm guessing you had to deal with a lot of trauma that you had brought on, you know, through this relationship. But at the same time, now it's time for Lucia. Now it's time to discover who you are and what you want. And, you know, now you've been in this marriage for 8-9 years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And, you know, coming full circle now, because I just got out of like a 2.5-year relationship just recently. And, you know, you come in and out of therapy. I think it's helpful. And there's different forms of therapy for different people. I practice yoga, and I also study A Course in Miracles. There's many things. Kundalini is big in my life as well. But knowing, you know, what side of the street I have to take responsibility for, which is reenacting some childhood trauma wounds in my partners, and intellectually knowing this for many years, knowing that I continue to I'm attracted to, you know, initially I don't know but I stay in these relationships with men that are emotionally unavailable.
Interesting.
The first man in my life, of course, my father, whom I love. I'm not angry in any way, but I can tell you was emotionally unavailable, and he did the best that he could with what he knew, right? So just for a moment, we pause back in history to my father, who was born in 1934 in southern Italy, which was war, you know, and his father, my grandfather, under Mussolini, was sent to Ethiopia. So he had no father, there was no money, and he would eat by going foraging, like eating, you know, fruit from the trees. And so education wasn't on
Top of the list.
no, he had to go at the age of 7, he had to go to work.
Yeah. to provide for the family, right? Resourceful.
That's right. So this is Europe. This is a young man who, despite any kind of dreams or aspirations, he had to be practical and provide. And so that's all he's known. And he hasn't known the embrace of dad or the embrace of mom because they're in a torn country. So he grows up and he has a family and he does what he knows. He provides.
He brought
And
his family to America for a better idea of life.
well, yeah, well, actually it was my mom. My dad wanted to stay in Italy, but my mom's parents had come to the United States and my mom had her first two children in Italy. And she was just like, I am so miserable. My mom, my dad, my sister, everybody is in the United States and I'm alone. And she came to New York and told my dad, this is where you're going to find me and your kids, because I can't go back to Italy anymore. So she stood up and then he came and then I was born. But my dad wasn't an alcoholic, but alcoholics are emotionally unavailable. I mean, I'm not going to like speak for folks who know more than I could speak on this level, but I know that anyone with an addiction problem, their lover is that bottle or that drug, and they're not connecting with that person who is physically in their
Yeah,
arms.
you're coping, you're using these
Yeah.
things to cope with the shit that you're not addressing, the things that you just want to keep pushing down and pushing away. So you use these, I don't know, what do you call it? What if drugs, alcohol, it could be sex, it could be many things, right? It's
And in the case, my dad was working, so he was a workaholic, right? In that, yeah, he it's not that he loved us less or that the love was there. He just, this is what he knew, and here he is as a grown man with 3 children, and as far as far as he knows, he did the best he could, and I will say that to this day, he did the best he could. Now here I am as a grown woman still trying to heal that wound,
those wounds. Yeah.
and I keep hitting that wall with those men who, let me fix, I'm gonna fix this, I'm gonna make you love me, I'm gonna make you like be your priority. When I come through the door, you're gonna say, hey, tell me about everything, tell me about your day. And that wasn't my dad. That wasn't my dad. I used to fantasize about it being the Brady Bunch, but just wasn't gonna happen.
Well, he was probably focused on the next day too, of like, gotta get up, gotta go to work. Hold on one second. I gotta, these darn dogs, you can hear them in the back,
yeah.
right? Let me let them in.
Yeah.
Hey, stop it. Get in here. Get in here. Sit down. Lunatics. There, sorry about that. I don't know,
Right,
there
and
must have been, we have these damn possums that are like enormous, like the size of dogs here.
Oh, wow.
And so they hear them running across the walls and they like to go and try and chase them. So that's what's going on there.
That's okay. That's okay. The dogs will be dogs as they will.
So dad, so you keep
So
trying to heal the wound with dad by dating
Yeah.
men who are unavailable.
Yeah, and I think this
Right.
my last relationship, and again, I'm trying to see where I try to take ownership for my side of the street, and certainly he wasn't an angel, and look, but he was, of course, he's all good, intentions, and I loved him and I still do, but I keep coming up on that. So, and it's interesting because intellectually I've known that for many, many years, and every time I think I got this, I'm good. But I
The
don't.
universe says, nope, not yet. You're not ready yet. Try again.
Yeah, I didn't quite learn that lesson that we've put you here to keep trying to get. And so, but yeah, that journey, it's tough. And I think as a gender, women are pretty resilient that way. And I'm glad that you have this kind of discussion, because it reminds us through the trials and tribulations of our lives that we stand up and we stay. I mean, I could tell you this past weekend I was in tears. I was crying, but in my vulnerability is my strength too.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. That's how we grow. That's how we, work through these things, is through the challenges. And whether it's relationships or profession or parents, in my case, like, it'll just keep showing up until we find the way to resolve it, until we find the way to, the strength, like you're saying. We're gonna cry, because that's what women do. That's how we process it.
Yeah. And to release it. And my spirituality is also very important for my healing. And I lean on that as well. And I use influences from the West and the East, right? So I'm European, so there's some Western influences, and the Eastern, of course, are the yogic philosophies and herbal medicine knowledge from the West and the East. And that's part of my healing, and that's a very spiritual part. And then also, oh, I forgot to mention, I'm a witch. I consider myself a witch. So there's that.
Of course you are. And I remember the potions you make.
Yeah, and it's a charged word. I mean, it's an interesting word, because there was a period where, I felt that that's who I am, and but don't want to just quite come out and say it. But and what does that mean? And for me, it is, and I can, I feel that you are too. I mean, it's understanding the subtleties of energy, and working, not, in sync, and realizing your strength through nature, giving reverence to that. And that's why I believe you resonated so much with the Temazcal, the sweat lodge, the Native American. It's a very, very old tradition, and I feel honored to have been invited to those traditions and ceremonies. We did peyote together as well.
That's right. We did do that. I totally forgot about that. That was powerful too.
Yeah. Yeah. We started from the time the sun set to the time the sun rose. That was in the teepee.
I was so terrified too. And because I didn't know what to expect, right? And after the Temazcal, I was like, holy shit, that shit was so hard. Oh my God. But so life-changing, right? So going into the peyote, I remember being afraid, and it still to this day was the most beautiful ceremony I've ever done. Like the love, that's what I felt, and just the magic of it. So what you're saying about us being witches, you being a witch, it's like reconnecting to that energy.
Yeah.
And ceremonies help us to reconnect to that, and help us remember that space and that time. And whether it's from a previous life, or whether it's just the energy that brings together, at this point, it's magic. It's something deeper than the human experience, for sure.
Right. And there was a period where I was afraid to say that word, but I wanted to say it to clarify what that means to be a witch, and that and historically, to clean up why women were deemed witches. And in the good old days, when they burned, raped, and tortured women as witches, of course I'm being facetious, but women they either owned property, and what a way to grab that property, but to call her a witch.
Exactly.
She knew how to heal. And being a wife or a mother, you needed to heal your sick children or your husband. But of course, only men were educated and knew about healing. So if
Be
you knew,
doctors, right? Or
right, right,
was there spirit people, or were like doctors?
doctors, men were the only ones who women weren't supposed to be educated in healing and knowing about anything. So if you did that, of course you were a witch. And then lastly, if a man was attracted to you and you sort of spurned his advancements, and you were like, no, I'm not interested. What a way to get back at her as well, and say she's a witch.
Label her the witch.
Yeah, so your beauty, your wealth, and your knowledge were threats, and thereby you were deemed a witch. And so, yeah, so that's how that, and of course at the time the Catholic Church was very powerful, and still is, but yeah, so that was how that continued for many, many, many years. And
I think we're probably only just now kind of really seeing it start to change, within the last 5-10 years.
that's right.
We have a long way to go, but I think that being a woman is still a big threat. And it's really weird because of societal ways and just this history of it, even men who don't logically believe that, they're caught up in it because that's how society says it is. Women need to be kept down and like in their place. And so it's very interesting kind of, coming with having 2 boys and listening to how they now look at women, but you still have this weird thing with society where it's even a conversation. Why is it still a conversation? Why is it that we aren't equal, and realizing that we each bring something unique to the table? We each have our strengths, and knowing that bringing them together makes us stronger, so we're living in some interesting transitional times.
Very much so. And when we step back and look at the duality of the yin and the yang, the male and the feminine, we see that in all aspects of life on planet Earth. And so if we just look at our physical bodies, right? And we start below the third eye, which the third eye in yogic philosophy is, the third eye is centered between your eyebrows, right here. We're pointing, but you can't see us, but but if you go down from that third eye, you have 2 eyes, you have 2 nostrils, you have 2 lips, you have 2 ears, you have 2 arms and 2 hands and 2 legs and 2 breasts, 2 feet. So everything below your third eye is two-dimensional, dual. Yeah. So when you get past that third eye, you come out of that just seeing things in that way, and you can go into your 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th dimension, right up until you get to that crown chakra. So I mean, that is the lesson on this, very heavy rock spinning in space. We are, spiritual beings living in this physical body, and what we do with it. And it's a beautiful gift that we're able to see and smell and taste and sing and dance and all these wonderful things that our physical bodies can do. And again, there's that duality, right? The spirit form, the spirit, and then there's the physical form. And so that adventure, that journey, how do we handle it? And I wonder if our spirits of God or the goddess is all like, this is a reality show for them.
I'm sure it is. I've said that a few times, but something just made me think of something, because we've always felt you know, we've been here before, we've done this, we're witches, we understand, we're connected to spirituality. And so when you're sitting here explaining this to me about the duality, and then also we're talking about your relationships and how you keep going for the men who are emotionally unavailable. And I just wonder if you chose to come into this lifetime to do this work of this transition. So it's not just about you and your story, it's like the transition of humanity, and how do we wake men up? How do we make them more, not make them because we can't make anyone, but helping with the transition of being more emotionally available and finding that, helping to find that duality and that balance. So maybe it's more of like, you got it all on your shoulders for humanity. It's not just your story. It's like you're doing some work for a lot, you know, for the sexes in general.
Right. And it's breaking that cycle, right? And I think about you as a mother having two boys, and I always had this feeling that women of this generation that are giving birth to boys are those women that are so needed, are the highly evolved women like yourself that are birthing boys so that we can break that cycle. I always believed that. And I was like, oh, see, Sarah's got two boys. Proves my theory. She's that woman that is breaking that cycle and teaching our new generation of men of well, we say now we're astrologically, I'll shift gears, we're moving into the age of Aquarius. Aquarius is about technology, it's about group, it's about society, it's less about the self. So it'll be curious to see how we move into more technological platforms, and then how gender, well, now we're gender is becoming not just male female, right? So we see a lot more of that cycle transforming. There's a lot of sort of transformational stuff happening between that duality, because it's not just he and she now, right? So that shift has been happening. And so yeah, and so for us women now, this generation, what we have, learned in our years growing up, and now we're becoming the elders now.
Yeah,
we're
I
becoming
know.
we're becoming the crones. I know. We're still hot, damn it. Hold on a minute.
We'll always be hot. They can't take it away from us. It's an energy, it's a spirit. I'm learning. It's like we can get wrinkles and all these, physical things that happen to our bodies, but it's something that's inside of us that is giving us the strength and the courage and the badassness that no matter what age we're at, we're going to behave the same way.
That's right. Yeah, because that beauty comes from within, right? We can say So but it's a curious journey, and as I'm moving closer and closer to like sort of more the settling into the crone years, I do want a little more peace, because some people will say, well, why don't you go back to acting, and I'm kind of just moving to like be peaceful and being okay with that, and growing food, and making my medicine, and through my tinctures and potions that I make with the herbs. And I'm I've been teaching myself astrology, but tomorrow I start I'm going into like an official astrology school to like get like a more clearer foundation, and try to like do charts for friends and family, and maybe.
I love that. You've always been one to explore this side of spirituality and learning about it. You're always taking courses. You're always trying to I love that though. I mean, we need medicine women. You're witchy witch.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I'm feeling moved, like, and inspired by you, especially you left Los Angeles and you made Mexico your home. And I think that's badass and very brave. You just picked up and said, I am, this is what I need to do. I'm being called. I have to do this. And you keep recreating and you don't stop. And it's really quite amazing to see you and witness how you flourish, and sometimes how you just go, you know what, this isn't working, and you just go pick yourself right back up and you keep going, and
Not before I hit the wall and lose my shit and cry for weeks and break down.
but here you are creating this podcast, you don't stop.
Yeah,
You
it's
keep,
important.
that's right, and you recognize that, and I love that about you. And so someone had sent me a link about a farmhouse in Tuscany, and I was like, that's it, I'm going. I have dual citizenship. I have an American and Italian passport, and I know you went to Italy and you were just like, oh, these Italians, I don't know, but I I just I feel a calling. It's stirring up inside of me that I need to leave the United States. And if it's not Italy, I don't know, it could be Merida. I've got two other girlfriends living in Merida. But I'm starting to feel that stir coming up. And
Do it, girl. Do it.
yeah,
Visit both places and be there and sit with it and feel it, and you'll know what you're supposed to do. I really think that you're that calling is right on, and we should definitely listen to it, because
yeah,
you know
yeah. It's funny because as I was talking to you about that trip I did in Australia, and I was 21 with my friend, her name is Lisa. She was looking to find her place in Australia, and that's why she wanted to go hitchhiking, and I went along with her, but she was looking to where she was wanting to live in Australia, and that was her journey, actually. So yeah, I think this summer I'm going to take a trip to Europe and start looking around and seeing how I feel, and I'm planting the seeds. Yeah, and I'm gonna come down and visit you in Mexico, and yeah, for sure, it's gonna happen. So I'm giving it like this year, maybe next year, and really taking off. So yeah, thank you for your inspiration and your pioneer spirit that you have. Look, you've
my
inspired
pleasure. I
me.
don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm just doing it. I'm just whatever I feel. I don't think too much. I don't know that I've ever. Yeah, I do think a lot, but like something, when I feel something, I just try it. And most of the times I'm having to shift, the road less traveled, go down that for a little while, and then shift back to the other. Oh, well, that's not feeling good either. Let's try something else. And I think I don't know if it's because of my childhood and my family, who have done, they don't do, they complain, but they don't do anything about it. They stay on the same path, and it's like, that's never been me. I've always been like, okay, I don't know what the hell I'm seeking. I don't know what I'm looking for, but this doesn't feel good. And this can't be all that there is out there. And I think I know that life is short. So like, come on, we got shit to do. We got places to go. We got to figure this out.
I love it. I mean, it takes a lot of courage because yeah, you're right. And folks will stay in their comfort zone. Like astrologically, I'm a Cancer, so I love my home. I need to, I need to have that sense of home. And I have to have that foundation. I get very rattled if I don't. So I've been in my little bungalow here in LA for a very long time. And yeah, so, but
I don't know. I'm feeling Italy for you. I feel like, especially since you've never lived there,
no,
obviously
I spent my summers there as a kid.
as family, yeah, with your family and stuff. But now as an adult woman, to go back on your own, and recreate, get some land and start growing your herbs, and you're
Yeah.
back in the motherland. I don't
And
know.
go knocking on
Something.
the door of the Pope and say, listen, Pope Frank, we got to talk. Okay. We got to set the record straight. And I actually like him. I'm not, I'm a recovering Catholic, but I admire him because he's a Jesuit, and I went to a Jesuit university, Fordham University in the Bronx, and the Jesuits are very keen on higher education. And the Catholic Church needs to know, they do know, but I'd like for them to really recognize and publicly recognize and admit to the atrocities that they committed
In the name of religion, or in the name of spiritual, like something good.
and not just, we can talk about the indigenous folks that they tried to convert. We can talk about the witches that were burned and tortured and killed. Like, there's many things, and not just, and I'm not gonna just lay it at the foot at the Vatican, because there's many religions that have fought, and which brings me to, and reminding me, speaking of, my last name is Marano, which I keep telling my family we're Jewish because of my last name. But during the Inquisition, when the Christians took over Spain, they told Jewish and Muslim families they could stay in Spain. This is in the Inquisition, so it's 14, 15th century, and there were Jewish families said, okay, we'll stay, we'll convert to Christianity. And the Christians called those Jewish families that said that they were going to convert to Christianity, they called them the Maranos. It's spelled Marrano or Marano. Mine's with a single R. And that is a slang for dirty people. Pig, yeah. So southern Italy actually was, in Calabria, was run by the Spaniards for about 100 years. So I actually think we're Sephardic Jews, but that's a whole other discussion. But that's the history of my last name. So Marano's families would have these ceremonies, and they wouldn't know what they were doing, right? Because they would just get passed down for generation. And they were, having the Sabbath ceremony or different things to sort of secretly keep their Jewish ceremonies. They were saying
In the way of like a Catholic, in the Catholic way. It's very similar here too with the Maya people, because it was the Spaniards that came over and conquered and took over everything. And so the Maya people would, they became slaves, so they were forced to build the homes and work for the Spaniards. And they would do certain things, like on the crosses they would hang like a traditional dress, a traditional Mayan dress, or this piece of the dress, and it was a way of saying fuck you, really. But it's like, okay, we're going to convert because you're forcing us to, but
right.
we're not going to, we're going to show that our culture and our tradition still matters to us.
Right, right.
Interesting.
Yeah, indigenous people from all over the world, from the Aborigines to the Africans, of course, that were enslaved, to the indigenous people of South America, Central America, and North America, and Canada. And it's an interesting evolution of the human species and how they were pretty violent toward your other human,
other, right? Because it was about domination and power and control. And the only way to get that is to put people beneath you. So by force, right?
Yeah, I was always very curious, and I've read different things, like how like a specific human population, like and in this case the Europeans, right? The Nordic Europeans, maybe the Vikings, how they, maybe because it was colder, sometimes it's colder climb, so they were eating more protein, so their brain sort of became more robust, Yeah, and grew, yeah, and had to be more cunning because of the cold. And so as they migrated, south toward warmer climes, and how we moved away from being more nomadic to being more agriculture and sedentary. And so it was like, oh, so now I own the land. Now I own my woman. Now I own that woman and those children. And then it
Mhm.
became like this power play. I mean,
Machismo shit.
yeah, that right. So well, that's and astrologically we're supposed to be 2000 years of patriarchy, moving out of that period of the Piscean Virgo axis, again polarity to the Aquarian age, and the axis being Aquarius to Leo. And if it's just what is the opposite of that sign. So Aquarius is opposite Leo, Pisces opposite Virgo. And so we're moving out of that era of the patriarchy into
And
this
so
Aquarian
into
age.
the Aquarian. So do you think, is that more of a balance? Or, because obviously we can't go the other way because that's going to cause the same thing. So it's like, after 2000 years of this, what is it? What
Well,
is
that's what's so interesting, because Aquarian is about the future. It's about technology, right? So so that's why it's interesting how, now the gender roles are sort of inventing themselves, or expanding, or re-envisioning.
creating a new one, new
Yeah.
ones,
And as we
newest
move
one, I guess.
into a more technological age, and we see it even now, how, where is that going to go? Like men and women changing their physical beings, right? By, through plastic surgery, or through all different kinds of, you know, science, that people aren't looking what they were born into. So we're
Right, because they're not, because something's changing, the energy's changing, so it's well, I guess everything is just about transition in this time period. I guess that's the thing that we're going through, and that's, I think, with everything. It's people, it's planet, it's animals, it's energy. We're
yeah.
living in a crazy time.
Well, yeah, I mean, even I guess even through the like, I guess during the Black Plague too, they could say that was a crazy time too. And I think, the human animal is an interesting animal. It really is. Someone said that, I don't know if it was a zoo in London, or I can't, but someone said there was a sign that said this is the most dangerous animal on the planet, and of course it was a mirror.
It's so true. Come
Yeah,
on, think about it. It's like everything else kind of works in its systematic way. Like animals, wild, or animals in the wild, dogs, whatever, domestic, they know how, without language, how to to keep going. And it's people that are destructive. And I mean, of course, wild animals kill wild animals, but there's a system to it. It's not,
right,
let's make guns and kill everyone. It's,
right,
there's,
right,
I'm
right. I
eating
mean,
for survival.
right, and the instinct is, yeah, they're going to attack, um and the violence comes from their survival instinct. And we have choice. We have free will. We have
Damn it, the free will.
we have opposable thumbs. So we yeah, so we have opposable thumbs and free will. And so we have a choice. And
And a responsibility, I think.
yeah, yeah. It's always so fascinating when the story of Adam and Eve, and they're in the the Garden of Eden, and um they have this choice. And I often think about it as their choice to come out of spirit and into physical form.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's how I read it, you know, the the tree of knowledge. And so they went and ate that. To me, you know, that's how I interpret it, but eating that apple took them out of spirit, because now you're now
Doing
you're
something for the physical body. So do you think that we are moving into more of a spiritually connected, spiritually guided way of being? Like, what does spirit look like in the future? You know, because now we don't, you know, we've made a few jokes and stuff, but we're not, as a society, we don't believe in organized religion as much, you know. I especially each generation believes less and less about that, and are more tapped into, you know, spirituality and trying to find connection through a way that feels like peaceful and loving and as my own, or as your own. You know, it's not something that someone has to tell us how to do. It's those things, like you said, that you feel connected to, kundalini and yoga and meditation and these things that speak to you, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you an example of a badass woman who I know personally, who is back again running for the president of the United States, and Marianne Williamson. And I know her because I would go to her lectures on A Course in Miracles, and she really resonated with me. So I went to her and volunteered. And it was last May, it was this time last year that the volunteers from Los Angeles met with her, and she was telling us that she was thinking about running for president again. And, you know, you guys, would you support me if I did? And of course, we love her, you know.
Yeah.
And her campaign now is very different than it was, you know, 4 years ago. And she, you know, she told me when she was up there campaigning the first time, it was just like, you're the kook, you're the wacko. And and she got so much slack, and she got hurt. Really, it was hard. And but you know
Yeah.
what? Like you, she got up again, and she was like, no, I am feeling called. And I love her message now, because it's really much more cleaner, much more sharper. And she took what she knew from the last few years, and she's just like, no, you know what? You're telling I should have no business being up here. They're the people that are in office right now. They're car mechanics. They've driven us into a ditch. And just
Bad
because,
car mechanics.
right, right. And here's a woman who, she's brilliant. First of all, her mind is incredibly brilliant. And she has spirit. She's a very spiritual person.
Well, that's where she started from, right? The Course in
Yeah.
Miracles. And she's very, I mean, driven by God, by the idea of, well, I guess we're all partly God, right? And
Right.
so
And
what would contribute?
right. And you know, when you think about Martin Luther King Jr., spiritual, profound, profound speaker, profound leader from spirit. You can say the same thing about Gandhi, right?
Mhm.
You know, and no one thinks twice, and no one says, oh, what, you're a kook, what are you doing here? You know?
Well, she is a woman, so we're
Woman.
still working through that part.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But she's turning that narrative around, saying, I'm not a kook. And here's what I have to say.
Yeah.
And and she's now catching people off guard, because she has so much mindfulness, so much thought provoking information that she's trying to come across, and to people to say, wait, I'm not this whack job. I actually have a lot to say that's important. Just give me a moment and let me talk, listen to me. And if you do, you're just like, and I got a text from a friend of mine who used to make fun of her 4 years ago and apologized to me and said, you know what, Lucia, I used to say that about her, that she's got the crystal ball, and that was the narrative that the main medium and the DNC
Yep.
were, they wanted to have a cross about Marianne Williamson. And he goes, I listened to her and wow, she's really impressive. She had some really great stuff to say. And whether you believe it or not in politics or whatever, I just think she's an example of a fierceness that she was put down, she was sidelined, and she was very hurt, you know, and she was like, she had a calling. She's like, and this is the hardest thing you've got people ridiculing you. You've got a whole society, a whole nation, a whole news organization coming at you. And she's like, no, I'm doing it again.
Yeah, I think it's two things. I think she, because I'm a big Marianne fan too. I think that she has learned from that to be able to craft her message a little more clearly, in a way that more mainstream can understand what she's talking about, right? And then the other side of it is, like I said earlier, I think society is looking for spirituality because they no longer, you know, believing so much in this organized religion. It doesn't feel good in your heart. And she's been talking about living through your heart for 40 freaking years, you know? And so I think that the two things are creating this space that I really hope, that she, you know, can get into a place that we can see it, so we can, that she isn't shut down so much, you know, by the mainstream media, that we can actually start making some change, because
that she can be that leader that we need, that really thoughtful leader, and that's who she is. And so to your question about where spirituality is going to go in the future, I guess how I see it, of course, I want us to expand our spirit beings, right? Because we are essentially spiritual creatures. And you know, I go back to the Adam and Eve, it says that Adam and Eve fell asleep, but nowhere does it say they woke up. And so yeah, so we're
it's
all
time to
asleep.
wake up.
We're all asleep. And it's just so fascinating that people are playing with this term woke society. It's such a fascinating thing because, you know, I'll go back to that biblical, you know, text that says they fell asleep, but doesn't say they woke up. And here we are, I think, you know, they chose to live in this physical being, there's these spirits, and they fell asleep.
Yeah. And here we are.
We're walking, we're sleepwalking, or however. So what does that mean? You know, so spirituality wise, I just hope, my hope and my prayer, when I get back into the sweat lodge or I'm in TP, you know, wherever I am in a spiritual setting, you know, my prayer is always, you know, I pray about myself, I pray about my family and my friends, and then I pray about the greater community. And my prayer would be to continue that we don't forget our spirit.
Yeah.
And connect and try to, and what does that mean? Because it is the God of whatever understanding that is to you.
I always say it's whatever helps you to sleep at night.
Right.
Right.
The God of my understanding. And so all I can say is I'll keep praying. You know, I get invited to these ceremonies. You know, I don't know how a chick from the Bronx ends up in a teepee, but I did.
Well,
You know,
I'm telling you, I think you nailed it as far as being a medicine woman. You know, you were put here, you came back to heal, to help people remember, to help people reconnect to their spirit. And that's probably why, you know, you feel sometimes like, what the hell? Because it's not about you. It's about the greater movement, the greater shift. And I think I think you have to stay flexible like that. And I think you have to keep learning, because it's about speaking to many people and helping many people to wake up, coming from many different backgrounds. So that's why I believe you are such a student of life, and always learning and always trying to, I mean, everything you do, like I said, is from your heart, and you do it 100%. And I love that about you.
Thank you, my dear. And I feel the same about you. I joke that I say I'm the Snow White of Silver Lake, because I'm feeding, the possums and the raccoons and the skunks and the stray cats.
I think you need to find some time though, and to I mean, you know how nature is, you know what nature does for you, but to be out there and
Yes.
feeding yourself.
Yeah. And most
Being in the city can just
Ah.
drain you. Oof.
And to speak about that vision quest, and when I came down off that mountain and I was back here in Los Angeles, I started to cry. I don't know if I told you this, but I just cried, because the power lines and the electricity and the concrete and the cars and the honking, and there I was on a mountaintop talking to trees and praying with the chanupa, and not eating for, I think you said 3, but I was like, wait, was it 4? I don't even remember.
I think it was 3 nights, but 4 days.
4 days, yeah. And then it started to hail, and I don't know do you remember, were you, because you were at the yeah. And so I was in the most peaceful, and I was in conjunction with everything around me, with all of the birds and the trees, and when it was windy, 55-mile-an-hour winds, the trees calmed me down and said, girl, we've been standing stiff, and now it's windy, we're dancing, like, you're fine, don't worry.
They were thanking you because you harnessed that energy, you brought it in. So you're a very powerful woman, you're a very powerful being. So you just need to keep on doing it, girl.
Yeah, and get inspired by women like you, who just pioneer and say, I'm doing it. I'm going up that mountain. I don't know which direction I'm going, but I'm going up the mountain. I know it's up there. Just keep on keeping on. And that's you, Sarah. That's you. Keep on keeping on, reinventing yourself, creating new avenues, and bringing this platform for women to listen in and go, oh, wait a minute, this sounds familiar. May not be the right names and places, but like, I experienced this. Her experience sounds like my experience, and how wonderful.
Or someone that and I mean, and that's the whole point of it, is that our paths are different. We're going down different roads, but ultimately it's the same journey. We go through the same things. It's relationships and how we evolve. Like you're talking about your relationships with men and choosing the ones that are unavailable, and it's like, yeah, how many of us can relate to that? Because we are the nurturers and the caretakers, and we're trying to fix them, and the problem is they need to come to that on their own, and usually they do after the relationship is over, then they figure it out. So we are doing it. The problem is at our detriment, and so that's the hard part for us, and what makes us cry and be all vulnerable. But that's part of the journey, and I think that many women can relate to that. Many women can say, yep, that was me crying, that was me trying to figure it out. So that's why I wanted to do this podcast. It's just a place for us to share and relate and connect and be inspired and have each other's backs.
Yeah, absolutely. And the journey, because we've had such different journeys, but some similarities. But your journey as a mother, that's very deep and profound, because I experience it, of course, I'm a mother to not my own children that I bore, but like I have nieces, and of course I have my furry animals, but that's a whole other journey, that
Mhm.
is pretty powerful.
Well, you didn't have children because you have to have that focus on the medicine. You're healing a bigger, you know, a bigger energy. I swear, when we started putting it together, it's like you're bringing together that duality. So that's why you're getting the lessons that you're getting,
Yeah.
and you just gotta keep keep on keeping on the same and holding that space for both, and
Yeah.
learning how to communicate with the other, both sides of it. And
Right.
I'm so happy to know you, and we could talk for hours and
I
hours and
know,
hours.
I know. I've eventually I have to hit the pause button but I miss you dearly, and I can't wait to either see you here back in LA, or make a trip down to see you in Mexico.
Well, I can tell you that LA is probably not gonna happen.
Not
It's
it,
an
not
energy that it's an energy that just, it doesn't feel good to me. Like the last time I came, I physically got sick.
Wow.
And it's just like, I've regulated to a different vibration. And that's why I'm inviting all of my lovely women to come here and come on this vibration, and let me show you on my retreats and my tours and my experiences here how it can feel different, you know.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's really super important, because I'll tell you, I'm feeling that shift. I'm feeling that shift. Like I had mentioned, when I came off the mountain from that vision quest, I just started to cry when I was in these streets of Los Angeles, and the concrete and the power lines, and um I cried. And so, but I stayed, and now that stirring feeling is coming back up again, and that vibrational level of power that I was in sync with nature is calling to me again, and to work with it. So yeah, I definitely I when let me sign up to that retreat. When is it? Where is it? When?
You just come, whenever, because what it is it's like, it doesn't even have to be a retreat. It's, we create it together. Whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that what you're seeking and what you're needing, we create it based on that. It's like I said, I have, I work with a woman, a grandmother shaman, and she is powerful. You know that the women shamans are way more intense than the men. Like, oof, kicks your butt.
Yeah.
Um, and I've made relationships with places in nature that are just spectacular, and experiences that, it's like I said, whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that you're seeking, we let energy guide us, and we create something that's unique for you.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I love that. I love that, there's something brewing inside of you. Come to this vibrational place that, can allow you to just, your nervous system,
Regulate.
yeah, we're under attack. Who's cutting me off? Who's stuck in traffic? I'm late. I've got to be in the office for 9 hours. It's just like attack, attack, attack.
Mhm. Well, you come on down to me, sister. Come on down. What's funny is you're like, like we started this conversation, is you're the one who introduced me to spirituality. I had nothing before that. I had no idea of how to connect. I was a lost soul, and I was a disaster and a mess. And when I started doing those practices and learning about that, is when I started finally discovering myself and finally finding the way, and understanding, that what the life that I was living was creating the struggles and the challenges to, that made it impossible. And so finding that spirituality that works for you, that talks to you, that helps to hold you and help you sleep at night, that's what we need to be focusing on.
Yeah, yeah, amen to that. Really, that's beautiful, and I'm glad that opened up for you, because there are no accidents. I think we met for a reason.
I know we did.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for being vulnerable and being honest and putting your true self out there and sharing it with the women who are listening to our podcast, our community. It's growing. More and more women are joining and really
Love it.
benefit from this. And I know that they are going to benefit from hearing you and your story and your magic. And so thank you for sharing.
Thank you, my love. I adore you and thank you for hosting this.
Mwah. It's my pleasure.
Ok, ciao, ci vediamo bella, ci vediamo dopo.
Okay, yep, that too.